Cooler Master has become quite prolific recently with their case releases, following up on the successes of their Mastercase Pro and Mastercase Maker lines with some more affordable options. The Masterbox series of chassis offers much of the same make-it-yours philosophy without all the bells and whistles, meaning that consumers can scoop fully featured products at a relatively low cost. The Masterbox Lite 5 RGB hits that sweet sub $100 price target. Let's take a look at what you get for your money. Like some others in the tech world have recently noted, cheap is getting good, and good is getting cheap. The Masterbox 5 Lite RGB is a continuation of this trend, as it joins cases like the Fractal Meshify C, Phanteks P400TG, and InWin 101 in providing a premium build experience with a tempered glass side panel without going over that magical $100 number. Now that's not to say that this case is without flaws, and the biggest problem that strikes me right off the bat is restricted airflow to the front fans. The angled front panel mounts flush to the sides, with the only ventilation provided by a small grille at the bottom and a minuscule one at the top. I've seen this now on a number of recent releases where companies are striving for that seamless look around front without accounting for how this might affect thermals on the interior. The end result is often beautiful, yet slightly less functional and practical. Some people probably won't mind, know, or care, but if you want the very best performance, keep proper airflow in mind. That shiny translucent front panel comes off with a pull, and although I'm not a fan of the glossy finish, I am a fan of what Cooler Master has done with the accent pieces. The top and bottom of the front panel come pre-installed with standard black trim, but in the box you'll also find red and white options. Cooler Master also provides 3D printing templates on their website, meaning that you could print your own and make it purple, green, or pink. Behind the gloss plastic, we find three 120mm RGB fans that are controllable via ASUS's Aura Sync, Gigabyte's RGB Fusion, or similar software by MSI and ASRock. Cooler Master also tosses into the box a handy 3-way RGB splitter. We'll light these fans up in just a minute. The tempered glass left side panel window is 4mm thick and has a slight tint to it. The thumb screws at the top are run through rubber grommets, as you're probably used to by now, but the bottom sits in a track similar to what you'd find on the more expensive Maker 5T. This makes installation or removal of the glass much easier and safer, as you don't have to worry about holding it to the case while you undo all 4 screws. I.O. was found at the top in a similar orientation again to what you'd find on the much more expensive Maker 5T. Standard headphone and mic jacks are joined by power and reset buttons, as well as 2 USB 3.0 ports. You also get a hard drive activity light here in case you're still into that sort of thing. The feet on the bottom of the case are plastic, but have hardy rubber pads affixed to them where they contact your desk surface. Ground clearance is totally acceptable at about 7/8 of an inch. The only removable dust filter on the Masterbox is found on the bottom underneath the power supply mount. The filter itself is my least favorite material in all of case construction. This flimsy, borderless, formless film. I suppose it's better than having unimpeded dust intrusion, but I'd love to see this kind of filter retired permanently, even if it means paying a few dollars more. By contrast, the interior of the case is executed almost flawlessly, especially for the price. Motherboard standoffs are not pre-installed, with the exception of a center locator post, but look at all the room you get here. There's space for a 360 rad up front and a 120 at the rear, and mounting points and cable pass-through holes are plentiful without being overwhelming. You can mount an SSD here to show it off, or use this space for water cooling equipment. The PSU shroud along the bottom features a small, visually appealing chamfered edge, and runs the entire length of the case. You can even use monster 180mm power supplies inside. Although you won't find grommeted cable routing holes next to the motherboard, the cutouts that Cooler Master does provide are located nicely and angled to allow for easier and straighter cable orientation. On top of the aforementioned shroud, Cooler Master has provided approximately a billion small mounting holes and slots. You can use this area for mounting a pump or reservoir, or I bet it wouldn't be too hard to mount another SSD, lighting controller, or USB hub if you wanted. The rear of the case also comes with an included 120mm fan, although this one is not of the RGB variety. The backside of the motherboard tray shows that Cooler Master has given some real thought to simplifying the build process. Although you won't find a PWM fan hub or bunch of SSD sleds, what you will find is adequate depth and space for cable management at about 3/4 of an inch. As you scan around, you can also see the exorbitant amount of cable tie-down points as well, something that as a builder I'm always looking for. Just because the right side panel isn't also tempered glass doesn't mean that you should leave your cables a mess, especially if the case manufacturer has gone to fairly significant lengths to provide you with the tools to do otherwise. The underside of the shroud is fairly unremarkable, although we can see the hard drive cage mounted here with two sturdy plastic sleds. You can see just to the left of the cage that Cooler Master has left this space vacant to allow for radiator mounting. Even though the number of drives you can install back here is limited to 2, the sleds slide out easily and toolless installation is a breeze. When we get some components installed in the case, we can see just how much room you'll be left with. The manual says that GPUs up to 400mm in length are supported, but I don't know any off the top of my head that even come close to that. The Founders Edition 1080 Ti is about 269mm in length and looks downright tiny in here. You can also see how the cable routing holes line up nicely with both the 24-pin connector as well as SATA and USB headers. The PSU shroud also sports cutouts for your front panel wiring and PCIe cables. Firing up those RGB fans up front, we could see why Cooler Master was forced to use the fingerprint magnet gloss plastic here. The lighting shines through vibrantly and the end result is very attractive. A few months ago I reviewed the Thermaltake View 31 RGB, a $130 tempered glass case that came with RGB fans. About 2 months ago I reviewed the InWin 101, a tempered glass case that retailed for $70, but came with no fans at all. Well, it seems like Cooler Master has taken these two products, both of which I liked very much, and mash them together to form some kind of mutant hybrid RGB monster. For $70, you get a pleasant, water cooling friendly build experience inside a tempered glass case with included high quality RGB enabled fans. Seems like a winning combination to me. I'm Brian with BPS Customs. As always guys, thanks for watching.